Secret codes that doctors use to talk about you. Is it true, or like most of the internet, a load of twaddle? Let's find out in today's alternative medical news. Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name's Ed, a junior doctor in the UK, and today we're going to be checking out this article by UniLAD. Despite what you think of them, they definitely know how to do a clickbait. This is called The Secret Codes That Doctors Use to Talk About You. I'm not aware of codes that we keep particularly secretive, so will I know about them? Let's find out. Probably worth pointing out that this article has been inspired by the BBC medical drama This Is Gonna Hurt, and if you want to see my reaction to that, I'll leave a link up there. I've been covering the episodes. Ever wonder what doctors really think of you? To be honest, we like healthy patients. That's why we do the job. Well, it turns out they've got their own hilarious secret shorthand for talking about us behind our backs. Doesn't sound too hilarious. Case of misconduct, if you ask me. Now, we're not saying that the NHS gives out an official code book to everyone on their first day. You're right not to say that, but it's good to know that frontline staff have come up with fun ways to deal with their stressful day-to-day, and they only seem to have these funny phrases for some of the less serious cases they see. I love the way there's kind of that phrase, like, you know, if you're really serious, we won't be taking the piss out of you. It's only the lighter things that would do that. In the eyes of the GMC, our licensing body, I don't think it would matter how serious, you still can't do it. Let's look at these ingenious phrases they've come up with. P.A.F.O. Never heard of it. Let's find out what it means. If you find yourself in A&E at 3 a.m, I often do, after a night out drinking, well, I never do, you might want to listen out for doctors and nurses referring to you as a P.A.F.O. It's code for drunk patients who've injured themselves because they're pissed and fell over. Basically, most people in A&E at the weekend, well, I can tell you that most people in A&E at the weekend aren't in for that. I think that's a bit of a common misconception. Obviously, there's a higher percentage over the weekends, and those patients can sometimes cause a bit of disruption, so take a little bit more attention. If you are a P.A.F.O, you might also find yourself with a UBI, an unexplained beer injury. Is that one they've just thrown in there? Yeah, I've never heard of these two things before. I think the second one might be a little bit of a joke, actually. But that's not to say that someone may be stupid enough to write this type of thing on a patient's notes. Not a good idea. In terms of alcohol, we actually use the phrase ETOH, so shorthand for ethanol, if we feel like someone's maybe under the influence of alcohol, but also certain illnesses. For example, if you come in jaundice, so yellowing of your eyes and skin, or if you're throwing up blood, so hematemesis, it's important to know if patients have an alcohol history because that can give us an idea of underlying cause. So we'll often write the shorthand ETOH on the patient triage. Eiffel Tower syndrome. What on earth could that mean? You know these weird stories you read about people accidentally getting weird things stuck in places they shouldn't? Yes, although you hear about it so much more than you actually see in medicine. Well, it turns out healthcare staff often don't believe them either. These people who insist they slipped and fell and somehow find themselves with a foreign object at their bum are known as having Eiffel Tower syndrome. Why? Because their repeated proclamations of, I fell. Very fitting. Really? That's just a load of nonsense. Again, a bit of a myth that in this situation, people don't tell a doctor what really happened. Most patients are completely honest about it, particularly when they've had something like this, which may sound funny, and I've talked about this on the channel before, but when patients come in like this, they are humiliated, often in pain, and the situation isn't funny at all. And also, it's really important for patients to be honest with doctors so we know what we're dealing with. So Eiffel Tower syndrome, nah. Whinorrhea, well, I can imagine what this sounds like, but let's find out the full description. Be warned, if you're someone that likes to complain and moan a lot, doctors are likely to diagnose you with whinorrhea. No. So you might want to think twice before bugging the busy doctors and nurses over trivial matters. I wouldn't bug anyone over trivial matters, but certainly something that is important to you is important to us. That's not to say that we're all angels and immune to difficult patient encounters, but what we have to remember is that patient stress levels are often heightened because they're scared, in pain, in unfamiliar environment, and feel a kind of loss of control with what's happening. adding into that, it can be a really stressful job in healthcare. Well, it is a really stressful job, and patients often don't see all the stuff that's happening behind the scenes and the other patients you're looking after. And the key to get around this is to communicate well with the patient and to have good empathy for what they're going through, try and understand why we feel like they're moaning. Are we not getting to the heart of the problem? The term you might hear instead of Whinorrhea is actually a Heartsink patient. So one where you see that you then have quite an emotional reaction to the consultation, and it's important to acknowledge that and not feel bad about it, and to make sure that doesn't cloud your judgment. Review Mrs Buckstar. So I actually covered this one from when I was doing my breakdown of This Is Gonna Hurt. I'd never heard it before, and it's pretty obvious once you know what it is. If you've ever heard a call over the hospital tannoy for someone to review Mrs Buckstar, well, that means go to Starbucks. I don't think you'd ever put it over the tannoy, and the tannoy system we use in my emergency department, we never have any special code names. It is literally what you hear on the tannoy is what it means. But I mean, the realism here is that most of the people I work with drink a lot of coffee, and there is a Starbucks, actually a Costa, in my hospital. So they're all the secret codes in this article. None of them that familiar to me, and you'd have to be a bit of a fool to use them because patients can get access to their notes, and it's highly unprofessional and can get you in a lot of trouble. But that's not saying that these things couldn't be used historically. But like lots of professions, medicine has a lot of acronyms in, and you should really only use the ones that are commonly used in your department so as not to cause confusion. Like I mentioned earlier, ETOH we often use for alcohol. Other ones that I've used this week, so we often see BIBA, which doesn't mean this. It means brought in by ambulance. I saw a patient yesterday where the triage note said FOOSH, which is fall on an outstretched hand. SOB can often look like we're saying son of a but in fact it's short of breath, sometimes written DIB, so difficulty in breathing. And lots of medical conditions abbreviated as well, so T2DM, type 2 diabetes, HTN for hypertension. But as I say, you need to use acronyms that are commonly used in your department because they might not even be transferable to different departments in the same hospital. For example, ASD in cardiology would mean atrial septal defect, so a hole in the heart, but ASD could also mean autism spectrum disorder. So there you have it. Do we use secret codes to talk about patients? No. Do we just use some abbreviations to help short of hand, in particular for triage notes? Yes, we do, but probably you do as well in your job. And if you haven't checked out This Is Going to Hurt, I'd definitely recommend it. And I'd also definitely recommend that doctor that talks about it on that YouTube channel as well. So until next time, hope you're all well, and I'll be back soon.